Hey, party people, what is going on? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Epsilon. What happened, and more specifically, what went wrong? On April 3rd, 2024, Ankama and the Dofus Touch team decided to relaunch the game alongside with new French, Spanish, and the first time ever, an English specific server meant to grow and expand the game into the English market. Now, this is a big deal because, as many of you know, Dofus as a whole never had a big following or a big appeal when it comes to the English market. To name a few things they did, Astrop was currently freshly redone. There was a whole revamp of Astrop, so people experiencing the game were experiencing a more streamlined version of Astrop. But not only that, they put together a Destination Astrop community event, which I partook in it. They brought streamers from the PC side to stream the game. They put an awesome trailer together. They were advertising the game. There was a lot of effort and hype behind this, but ultimately it was all artificial as Epsilon server kind of crashed after a month. And as of early 2025, Epsilon server will disappear and it's going to get merged into Taluk, which is a Spanish server, practically making this whole push they made a failure. Alright, so now with that out of the way, let's talk about the elephant in the room. It is my belief that there were three big factors that led to the downfall to Epsilon. One is the game failed to attract new players into the game. Two, the game is just not fun and it's not very well designed. And lastly, Ankama itself is just very disassociated and disconnected with what it takes to make an appealing product for the Western market. And I'm talking about not just the game, but when it comes to like marketing and branding. Before I talk about each point individually, first I want to give a shout out to the dev team itself. At the end of the day, you can't say that they didn't try. So let's loop back to my point of that the game failed to attract new players during this whole revamp initiative. I think it was very apparent, and it's obvious now, that most people who came into Epsilon were people from other servers looking for that nostalgic experience of a fresh start with other players. And once those rose-tinted glasses came off and the nostalgic goggles came off, those players just went back to the old servers. Furthermore, the kind of marketing they were doing here with the Destination Astrop community event just didn't make any sense. They pretty much rounded up all the PC streamers to promote Dofus Touch to their PC playing audience. It baffled me because like, you're not going to convince that player base, that audience, to ditch their PC Dofus journey and jump over to Touch. Like there was no point to that. Even though shout out to those guys for coming on board and giving Touch a shot, but you're not going to retain any of those people nor their audience. And guess what happened to those people? Oh, they went back to playing PC Dofus. So already you guys could see how this whole thing is kind of just iffy. And ultimately, this is the issue because Dofus' target audience is a hardcore MMORPG player. This is their target market. And the issue with this is that those people are already at home with a main game, which is like the worst way to go about it because firstly, you need Dofus Touch to be better than the game that they're currently playing for this to work, which sadly, it is not, and that leads me into point number 2. So say the game did attract some new people. What happened to them? Where those guys go? Why did they disappear? This is going to be a hard pill to swallow, and I don't enjoy saying this, but the game sucks. Objectively, the game is not a good game. Last I checked, people like playing good games. People enjoy telling their friends about good games. Hey yo, this game is fucking badass. You should check it out. People enjoy making content about good games. Sadly, this is not the case for Dofus Touch. The game, in the name of quote-unquote hardcore MMO difficulty, likes to shoot itself in the foot. Makes it so hard to enjoy this game. Especially as somebody who comes onto the game with zero knowledge, with the expectation they just want to have fun with it. In a nutshell, Dofus is not a very casual friendly game, and nor does it offer a very casual player experience, which is what the bulk of the mobile market is made of, just casual players. On Epsilon, people were starting to get walled pretty early on. Probably around level 100, people weren't able to get gear. People were dropping a whole lot of stuff, so it made it hard to like buy stuff off the market. Ultimately, people weren't partaking in the grinding MMO aspects of the game, which exacerbated the problem with progressions. Ultimately, if you design something which people don't want to do, it's a bad design. I'm looking at you, Professions. Freaking terrible. So with that being said, the game itself is very hard to get into. The game likes to fight itself in terms of like giving you the tools and like the information for you to flourish within itself. It was like playing the game on hard mode. So it's to no one's surprise that people would just rather not deal with it and they just left to go play something better. The last point I do want to touch upon is that the dev team is just lost when it comes to appealing to an English player base, to the Western market. And this is why, if we take a look at Dofus as a franchise, it really hasn't moved the needle in terms of popularity here in America. They are very comfortable in their little French bubble. Obviously, their priority and their main focus is their own people. And I think as long as they sustain themselves with that player base, the game has no reason to change. And they can continue to be stubborn with just appealing to that hardcore audience, as we see with the huge feature they're working on called the Labyrinth, which is just a level 200 player experience. For you guys who do follow my channel, you guys know that there's just issues upon issues that just permeate the game and just hold it back in so many ways. It's like the saying that's like a death by 1,000 cuts or something like that. That's pretty much Dofus in a nutshell. The funny thing is, a lot of these issues seem so obvious and fixable. Like Chinese developers figure out, Korean developers figure out, everybody's got this figured out, except for Ankama for some reason. Which is why I brought up this point, that there is some sort of disconnect with the developers thinking something is appealing or fun when it's not. Alright folks, just to wrap this up, I do want to bring this up here. This is a quote from Mr. Satoru Iwata. If you guys are not familiar with that name, he is a legendary game designer. He eventually became the president and CEO of Nintendo, a little company you might have heard of. This company obviously knows how to make very appealing and fun games while juggling a hardcore following. Hey, look at that. This quote comes from a book called Ask Iwata, and it says, "In my view, the online games of the world are unfairly biased towards the strong. It takes the bad luck of 100 or 1,000 players to make a single player happy. Of course, I don't mean to dismiss these platforms wholesale, but as long as they retain this element, things will never expand beyond a certain level. As fun as it might look from the outside, most people will drag their heels at the entrance." End quote. And folks, that is the story on why Epsilon failed.